Practicing mindfulness to be in the present moment with the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Hello, everyone. Today's Dhamma talk is about using the 4 foundations of mindfulness to train your mind to be in the present moment. For most people who never practice mindfulness, the mind is always wandering and becoming attached to external objects through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind, the objects of the senses or the physical sense objects. These physical sense objects cause the mind to create and become attached to sensuality or sensual pleasure each time we see, hear, smell, taste or touch. Then the mind wanders and becomes attached to the thoughts, mental factors, which we are thinking every day. The first mental factor or aggregate is feeling. We have feelings towards the body, such as being comfortable or uncomfortable, painful or pleasurable or fit or unfit, and we have feelings towards the mind, such as happy, unhappy or neutral. The second mental factor or aggregate is perception, which allows us to recognize things and remember the past. The third mental factor or aggregate is mental formation. The mind is fabricating/thinking of the future and creating wholesome or unwholesome thoughts, which are not related to feeling or perception. These 3 aggregates are not related to each other, each has its own character. Whenever one of the mental factors or aggregates arises, the mind, which is wandering and not stable, becomes attached to it. Because whatever arises, good or bad, is impermanent, suffering also arises at this moment, causing like or dislike. When like or dislike arise, craving and clinging will follow, because whenever we like or dislike, we are attached to that feeling. When we cling to perceptions, feelings or mental formations, then they become us. We feel that they are our perception, feeling or mental formations. At that moment suffering arises because all 3 mental factors or aggregates are under the rule of, or follow, the 3 marks of existence, impermanence, suffering and no self. We try to control things to be permanent, to bring us happiness and to be the way we want them to be, as if they were us or ours, but in fact we can't control them, because they're not us. Craving is the cause of the suffering to which we become attached, and there are different types of craving which we need to be aware of. The first is craving for sensual pleasure, the mind clinging to sense objects, which are form, sound, odor, taste, and touch. We crave that they will last forever. The second is craving for existence, when contact with sense objects causes the mind to want to possess and be like the sense objects. The third type is craving for non-existence, when contact causes the mind to crave to not be like that object, to get rid of it or to make sure it won't happen. Our attachment to the 3 types of craving is the cause of suffering, and this attachment and suffering causes us to perform actions through body, speech and thought to alleviate the suffering. We then receive and accumulate the consequences of those actions in our present life or in a future life, causing us to endlessly cycle in samsara. This is inevitable, and there is only one way to escape suffering in the present moment in samsara. This is by training the mind to follow the middle path, starting with the moral precepts and 4 foundations of mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Today we will train our mind to be an awakened mind with the 4 foundations of mindfulness. An awakened mind is a mind that is always aware, mindful, of what is happening at the sense doors in the present moment. Most people in this world have never trained the mind to be mindful, and the mind unconsciously attaches to whichever sense objects appear at the sense doors and whichever thoughts and emotions arise, like a monkey swinging from branch to branch. It's crucial that we practice the middle path correctly, as the development of mindfulness will teach us how to avoid being lost in thought for a long time and becoming attached to emotions. The mind will then become a knower mind, which is one that is stable and objectively observing phenomena without bias, just the way they are in reality. With the development of the knower mind, the body and mind and thought become separate from each other, and because with the knower mind there is no self, we will see that whatever suffering comes from the body, mind or thought, does not belong to us. Suffering can exist without tormenting the mind because it's not ours or us. The four foundations of mindfulness are body, feeling, mind, and Dhamma. Those who have good concentration can use the body and feeling as the foundation or base of meditation to which the mind always returns. They can just observe inhalation and exhalation and body posture, sitting, standing, walking, etc., at the same time as being aware of the body and mind. They can also use chanting as the base while being aware of the body and mind at the same time. Those who have fully cultivated observation of the body can then use feeling as the base and will be able to be peaceful even when the body is in pain. Mindfulness will arise easily in the feeling until the meditator become equanimous to the pain. Those whose concentration is not so strong should just observe the mind, the thoughts arising and passing away. When the mind wanders, just be aware and bring it back to the base. These people cannot focus for a long time and the mind easily wanders off, but don't worry, the path is still for you. Practice by just watching the wandering mind and bringing it back to the base again and again. The more you are aware and practice, the more that mindfulness will arise. Anyone who fully cultivates mindfulness by observing the mind will be able to see the Dhamma. This means he or she will be able to see the 5 hindrances, the 6 sense doors, the 5 aggregates, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths. The 5 hindrances are obstacles which prevent the mind from practicing wholesomeness and walking the path. They are sensual desire, ill will, sloth, restlessness, and doubt. These 5 hindrances prevent the mind from following the path by blocking awareness of the present moment. When we're not aware of the sense doors, we can't see the 5 aggregates, mental factors, working and so can't follow the path. There are 4 steps in training the mind to have mindfulness. 1. Use a meditation object, base, that you like and which causes mindfulness to arise more often. This can be any of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Just relax and be in the present moment with the base. 2. Observe the body and mind or the 6 sense doors. 3. Observe how the mind reacts to contact at the 6 sense doors, and be careful you don't go down a wrong path. These are 1. Getting attached to a sense object and lost in sensual pleasure or attached to arising thoughts. 2. Suppressing or controlling the mind to stay at the base. Most people do this because they crave tranquility, serenity, calmness, and peace. They crave success in meditation. In order to correct your practice and get back to the middle path, just be aware of what has happened and bring the mind back to the base, no matter how many times this happens. Whether your practice is good or bad, just know it and bring it back to the base. 4. When we practice, the mind wanders off naturally and becomes deluded or unwholesome at that time. But when we are aware of what happened and return the mind to the base, at that moment mindfulness has arisen. Mindfulness arising causes clear comprehension to observe mindfulness and to arise more often. Clear comprehension is the beginning of wisdom. Its job is to be sure that the mind has mindfulness and is at the base, preventing the mind from attaching to phenomena or thoughts. Each time you are aware that the mind has wandered off and bring it back to the base, clear comprehension will cause perception to remember and record mindfulness. The more mindfulness arises and the mind is brought back to the base, the more perception will record, causing mindfulness to arise spontaneously. This is called right mindfulness. When right mindfulness arises, it will become right concentration, and the mind will become stable and objectively observed from the base. Then we are able to see things just the way they are without bias or interference, and the mind has the necessary quality to separate itself from suffering and become a knower or awakened mind to see things the way they truly are, impermanent, suffering, and no self. The mind gains wisdom and craving is eliminated because we see the truth of the way things are. We are free of attachment and free of suffering. 5. Repeat the above with effort, patience, and truthfulness. We practice mindfulness to train the mind. Don't force the mind to stay at the base all the time, and don't let the mind become lost in sensual pleasure. Our job is just to watch the mind reacting to whatever is happening. The contact may be very good or bad, just observe the mind without interfering and bring it back to the base. When the mind is fully cultivated, it will become calm by itself without craving for any result. By cultivating the right cause, you will receive the right effect. For example, a deluded mind helps us to have a knower mind when we are able to observe it. Then we realize the cause of mindfulness is effort, and the cause of right concentration is the 4 foundations of mindfulness. The right cause will bring the right effect. Practice mindfulness in your daily life whenever you are walking, sitting, drinking, eating, or chanting, and find the base. Be in the present moment and observe whatever contacts the mind. Then, with effort, return to the base. Anumodana for listening and training your mind with the 4 foundations of mindfulness. I wish you all success in your practice. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Trisikkha Meditation Center, Plant City, Florida.